He's a 286-pound genetic outlier, a small-town farm boy turned NCAA champion, turned WWE megastar, turned UFC World Heavyweight Champion. But behind the world titles, the F5s, and the pay-per-view records is a man few truly understand. A man who doesn't love wrestling. A man who doesn't love fame. A man who, by his own admission, doesn't even like people. Who is Brock Lesnar? Really? Why did he walk away from WWE at the peak of his fame? Why did Shinsuke Nakamura cry after their match? What really happened on the plane ride that made the entire locker room fear him? Why did Chris Jericho threaten to bite his nose off? How did a college dropout become the most dominant combat sports athlete of his generation and go face-to-face with Vince McMahon, Undertaker, and Dana White without breaking a sweat? And why does he say he was never meant to be liked, only feared? You know the matches, you've seen the knockouts, but the real story is darker, wilder, more human than you think. This isn't a redemption story. This is the anatomy of a monster. But strength doesn't come standard. As a child, Brock Lesnar was afraid of the boys who teased him. Scrawny, bullied, isolated. The joke was his name. They called him Broccoli. And nobody liked broccoli. But funny thing about pain, it transforms you. And for Brock Lesnar, it started young. Around the age of 14, something changed. His body, fueled by outdoor labor and sheer determination, began to grow. While others played video games, Brock was lifting hay bales, doing push-ups in the barn, wrestling with shadows. Once in an interview, he said,
"Yeah, I was always hungry. I was always active. I was always doing push-ups, always doing sit-ups, always working out as long as I can remember."
He didn't just grow, he exploded. By 15, Lesnar was visibly more jacked than most grown men. With size came swagger, confidence, a new mentality. The scared little boy who once hid from bullies? Now he was the bully. His classmates were afraid of him. And in their wrestling room, nobody wanted to spar, not because he was reckless, but because he took it too seriously. His coach said about him,
"It was like he treated every match like it was a fight for survival. He didn't understand soft. He wanted to win, and if someone crossed him, boom, fists would fly."
And that mentality stuck with him for life. Unshakable. Brock didn't just like contact, he craved confrontation. Wrestlers are often taught poise and discipline. Lesnar, he had rage to harness, a short fuse, a constant edge, and he made peace with that. In an interview, he said,
"Born to fight, fight to kill, but ready to die, but I never will."
Wrestling became his first real outlet, a one-on-one war zone where you couldn't blame anyone else. For Brock, it wasn't just sport, it was a legal combat. Just a street fight with a few rules, he would say. And he treated every bout exactly that way. For Lesnar, it's never been about trophies or camaraderie. He didn't care about school spirit. He didn't wrestle for the team. He wrestled because deep down, he needed to dominate. What fueled him wasn't praise or recognition. It was the simple, primal joy of overpowering another person. When classmates were dreaming about college, firefighting, or business degrees, Brock answered differently in a very low tone. "I don't know. I just want to fight." At 17, Brock Lesnar enlisted in the military, not because of patriotism, not for medals, but because he needed a challenge, needed structure, needed a fight. His family beamed with pride. He signed on the dotted line, willing to die for his country. But Brock didn't see himself as a hero. He saw himself as a weapon, one that hadn't found a proper battlefield yet. Unfortunately, the Army had different plans. Routine health tests revealed Brock had a red-green color deficiency, and suddenly the would-be soldier was disqualified from combat duties, reassigned. Like a lion told to sit in a cage, Brock was handed a desk, a file cabinet, a 9-to-5 office job, in uniform. He hated it. He wasn't built to file paperwork or memorize codes. He was built for war. Trouble followed. His temper flared. Respect for rank meant little when the mission wasn't real. And bar fights, those still gave him a thrill. It wasn't long before Lesnar walked away from the military entirely, disillusioned, frustrated, and lost. Back in South Dakota, Brock became just another nameless man on a worksite. Clock in, clock out, count the hours till beer and barroom noise. But every night, beneath it all, something inside him refused to sleep. He still dreamt, restlessly, violently, not of success, but of purpose. Then came wrestling. Again, he enrolled in college mostly for the opportunity to compete, not to graduate, not to sit in lectures. In fact, Brock didn't do school. He skipped assignments, ignored papers, and never earned a degree. But school gave him something else, a place to fight, legally, properly, purely. And that arena, the amateur wrestling mat, was the first place where everything finally made sense again. In the year 2000, Brock Lesnar stood at the mountaintop of amateur wrestling, NCAA Champion, the undisputed best in his weight class and age group, maybe the best the sport had seen in a generation. He didn't leave college with a degree. He left with a WWE contract and a $250,000 starting salary. At just 25 years old, he was already being called the next big thing. WWE didn't just push him, he was launched. Vince McMahon didn't just believe in Brock. He bet the entire brand on him. John Cena, Randy Orton, Batista. Bright talents, yes, but none of them were Lesnar. Lesnar was once-in-a-century talent. WWE producers said about Brock Lesnar, built of concrete and steel, the most athletic human I've ever seen, just raw, uncontainable. In less than 6 months, Lesnar became WWE Champion, the youngest ever at the time. And the terrifying part, he made it. Look, easy. Brock's body was a weapon, his mind wired to dominate. But there was one thing wrestling fans and executives hadn't realized. Brock Lesnar wasn't built to play the game, at least not the professional wrestling game. The grind, 5 nights a week, cities every day, press calls, public appearances, locker room tensions. Brock's body could take it, his mind couldn't. You see, Brock Lesnar is an introvert, not shy, not quiet, but someone who needs silence to heal. Brock said in an interview, "I really don't like people. I'm sorry I don't. That's why I moved out into the middle of nowhere. I just like to be left where we are alone." And WWE was never going to let Brock Lesnar be left alone. Vince McMahon hoped Brock would become the poster boy for WWE, the next generation's locker room leader, a charismatic face of the billion-dollar empire. But behind the scenes, Lesnar was fueled by painkillers, alcohol and outbursts, fights, irritability, a visible withdrawal from people. On one infamous flight, the now notorious plane ride from hell, Brock Lesnar clashed with fellow wrestler Curt Hennig. What started as horseplay turned violent. Lesnar tackled Hennig against the airplane's emergency exit door. The brawl nearly caused catastrophic panic mid-flight. It was no longer a performance. Lesnar wasn't playing tough. He was a storm. In 2004, Vince McMahon had seen enough. Lesnar, the crown jewel, wanted out. And even after the money, the titles, the spotlight, Brock didn't care. He walked. Vince, furious. In legal terms, they struck a deal. Lesnar would not wrestle again in North America until 2010. A settlement. But Lesnar, being Lesnar, had zero interest in being told what he couldn't do. He took his fight to Japan. In Japan, Brock found what WWE never gave him: slower schedules, real fights, solitude. He worked for New Japan Pro Wrestling, where fans respected quiet dominance, and the long flights gave a man like Lesnar something rare: time to himself. The contract with Vince? Violated. The promise? Broken. But Brock was finally at peace. For now. In Japan, Brock Lesnar was instantly recognized for what he was. Money in motion, he won the IWGP Heavyweight Championship in his very first match, a Western monster among warriors. But even in a new country, the storm followed him. In 2006, Brock faced off against a rising star named Shinsuke Nakamura, a man who believed in wrestling as an art, and what he got broke him. Nakamura would retreat backstage and cry.
In an interview, Nakamura very sadly said, "He disrespected our culture. He didn't care about wrestling. He looked down on us."
If Nakamura was wrestling for honor, Lesnar was there for dominance. By now it was clear, even Lesnar knew it. He didn't love wrestling. He loved what it let him do: fight. In one of the strangest chapters of his life, Lesnar tried football. With zero college football experience, he tried out for the Minnesota Vikings. And yes, he very nearly made the roster. Of course, chaos followed him there too. During a joint training with the Kansas City Chiefs, Lesnar saw an opponent take a cheap shot at a teammate. On the next play, Brock Lesnar lined him up, grabbed him, suplexed him in full gear, WWE style, right in the middle of practice. Triple H once said, "Not even when he's off duty can Brock stop being Brock." Then, the accident. A severe car crash ended his football dreams. A broken jaw, a shattered left hand, 2 internal injuries, and in the haze of pain, drunken spiraling through Phoenix, Lesnar walked into a tattoo shop. Brock wrote about this in his autobiography. "I felt like life was holding a sword right up against my throat. So I went under the ink gun because I never wanted to forget exactly how I felt at that time. The tattoo on my chest has so much meaning to me. In some ways, it's funny because the period of my life that I'm talking about is a time I so want to forget. But I know I can use this memory as motivation." Lesnar's chest became a canvas of trauma. On his back, a horn-toothed demon underneath. The inscription, "Kill 'em all." He didn't just scar emotionally, he engraved it into himself. Wrestling, performance, football, failed gamble. But now combat was real. Brock Lesnar stepped into the UFC cage as a novice. No extensive training, no golden pedigree, just brute instinct and unmatched athleticism. And still, he dominated. He was a $10 million ticket printing machine. Within just a few fights, Brock Lesnar was the UFC Heavyweight Champion. Big trouble for Kuchar. Lesnar is the new UFC Heavyweight Champion of the world. Experts said he wasn't trained enough, but Brock didn't care. Lesnar proved that human limits don't apply when you are forged to break them. Then, the Beast bled. Brock was diagnosed with mononucleosis and a life-threatening diverticulitis. 2 surgeries, 12 inches of colon removed, a fight not in a ring, but inside his own body. Brock's words about him: "I had a hole in my stomach. I was leaking poison. I was done." He would lose the title to Cain Velasquez. But the Beast wasn't dead, just dormant. In 2012, Brock returned to WWE. But now, he made the terms. Fewer appearances, bigger paychecks, no small talk, and Vince McMahon had no choice but to say yes. Lesnar was given another meteoric push, this time with a legacy-defining reward. Breaking The Undertaker's legendary 21-0 streak made Brock Lesnar immortal. The dark side of the Beast. The entire Raw crew was stuck in an airport hotel due to a snowstorm. Most wrestlers passed the time sleeping or scrolling their phones. Not Brock. He dropped a small fortune making sure the hotel bar stayed open all night, just to loosen up and maybe, for once, connect. Seth Rollins walks in with a 6-pack of Coors Light, Lesnar's favorite, trying to break the ice. Alcohol, it seemed, was the only bridge to Brock's world. Rollins made it across. Dean Ambrose never did. That's why their match at WrestleMania 32 was flat. No chemistry, no trust, and no connection. Brock simply didn't respect him. Many say Lesnar didn't pull punches. Others say he just didn't care. Chris Jericho thought maybe Orton was in danger. He didn't know if the elbows were real, if this was still a match or something darker. Backstage, he confronts Lesnar. It nearly turns into a real fight. Jericho said about this incident,
I even saying it as a tough guy, I'm literally going to bite his fucking nose off. And I can see it right now.
But Orton did suffer a real concussion, missed weeks of work, and Lesnar, untouched, unpunished. He was once again proof that some monsters don't get tamed. Following the WrestleMania 34 main event, Brock hurled his championship belt at Vince McMahon, furious at the audience. They were playing with beach balls during the match. While he bled and broke his body, only his wife Sable could calm him down. Brock Lesnar is a registered hunter and an NRA member, and he is steadfast in his beliefs. In 2011, he was fined for illegally hunting a mule deer and failing to tag it properly. In 2001, he was arrested for suspected steroid possession, which turned out to be a false alarm. Still, Lesnar resents boundaries, WWE contracts, UFC doping rules, hunting laws, political correctness. He is a proud Republican, a Trump supporter, a conservationist of his own code. Brock doesn't respect many, but the few he does, he honors for life. One of them is The Undertaker. Their history includes brutal matches, tension at UFC events, and nearly throwing down in front of Dana White. But over time, even Taker would admit, Brock is who he says he is. Fewer lies, fewer masks, just the truth or chaos. Brock Lesnar is not a company man. He is not your hero, not a role model, not relatable. He does not play the political game, the public relations game, or the humble legend role. He is still a loaded gun with a hair trigger. You can like it, you can hate it, he doesn't care. What drives Brock Lesnar is simple: power, privacy, purpose, fight hard, win, vanish. Brock Lesnar doesn't love wrestling. He doesn't care for fame or for what you think about him. He exists outside the system, above the critics and rooted deep in primal instinct. Most athletes are stories. Brock Lesnar is a warning.